Jeremy, my son, it's me. Wait. Madame Hannah's voice cracked as the words left her mouth. The heavy firewood on her head shook slightly. Dust rose around her bare feet as she took one painful step forward on the untarred village road. Inside the expensive black SUV, the air was cold from the AC. The leather seats were smooth. The tinted window was already wound down. And Jeremy, the billionaire, stared at her like he had seen a ghost. His face changed so fast that Naomi noticed. 1 second he was relaxed, one hand on the steering wheel, the other resting casually as he drove through the village. The next second his jaw tightened. His eyes went hard. Naomi leaned forward from the passenger seat, looking out. "My love," she said softly, "let's help this old woman. She's carrying too much. We can drop her at her house." The old woman looked weak, but she was still trying to stand straight. Her grey hair was scattered around her face. Her clothes were old, dusty, and torn at the edges. Sweat ran down her forehead as the wood pressed into her head. Madame Hannah's eyes suddenly lit up as she recognized the SUV. She recognized the driver. She recognized his face. Even after all these years. Her lips trembled. "Jeremy," she called again, louder now. "Jeremy, my son." Naomi smiled a little, thinking this would warm Jeremy's heart. But Jeremy's hand moved fast. He reached for the window button. "No," he said sharply. Naomi blinked. "No? We can't help her," Jeremy said. His voice was cold. Too cold. Naomi stared at him like she did not hear well. "Jeremy, why? She's an old woman." Jeremy didn't look at Naomi. He didn't even blink. His eyes stayed on Madame Hannah. "She might be fetish," he said, forcing the words out like a warning. "Some of these village old women, they can be devilish." Naomi's mouth opened. She could not believe what she was hearing. "Jeremy, that's not fair," Naomi said. "She's just carrying woods. She's tired." Jeremy scoffed. "This is my village. I know them better than you." Outside, Madame Hannah tried to move closer. The wood on her head was heavy, but hope pushed her forward. Her voice shook as she spoke again, softer now, like she was begging. "My son, it's your mother. Madame Hannah, please." For one quick moment, Jeremy's eyes looked watery. Just for 1 second. Like his heart wanted to remember something. Like a hidden part of him wanted to open the car door and run to her. But then his pride rose faster than love. His fear rose faster than truth. His shame rose faster than mercy. He pressed the window button. The tinted glass began to rise. Naomi turned fully to him. "Jeremy, stop. She knows you. She called your name." Jeremy's lips tightened. The window continued going up, slowly cutting Madame Hannah's face out of view. Madame Hannah's palm lifted, shaking in the air. "Jeremy," she cried. "Wait, please. It's me." But the glass sealed her voice away. The SUV engine growled. Jeremy pressed his foot harder on the pedal, and the car zoomed forward. Naomi's head snapped toward the back window as the old woman became smaller in the distance. Cars and bikes passed on the road. Dust flew. Madame Hannah stood frozen, firewood still on her head, one hand still lifted. And tears began to stream down her cheeks. Naomi turned back to Jeremy, breathing fast. "Jeremy, that woman called you son," Naomi said. "She said she's your mother, and we came to the village to see your mother, didn't we?" "What is going on?" Jeremy swallowed. His throat looked tight, like someone was squeezing it. Then he forced a laugh that did not sound real. "That woman is not my mother," he said. Naomi stared at him. "Jeremy, she's trying to ruin my day," he snapped. "It's a bad omen." Naomi's eyebrows pulled together. A bad omen? Because an old woman asked for help. Jeremy kept driving as if the road offended him. "I don't know her," he said again, louder this time, like saying it louder would make it true. "And for her to call my name means evil people are after my life in this village." Naomi's heart beat hard. Something about the way he spoke made her skin feel cold. This was not the Jeremy she knew in Lagos. In Lagos, Jeremy was charming. In Lagos, Jeremy smiled at people. In Lagos, Jeremy donated money to churches and took pictures with orphans. But right now, in this village, Jeremy's face looked like stone. Naomi looked out the window again, but they were already far. The road ahead stretched into dry bushes and small houses with red zinc roofs. Naomi whispered, mostly to herself, Why would an old woman call you your son if she doesn't know you? Jeremy didn't answer. He just drove, and he drove faster. Earlier that morning, the truth was, Jeremy did not plan to meet Madame Hannah on the road. He did not plan for Naomi to see this side of him. He did not plan for the village to pull old memories out of him like thorns. Jeremy had not been to his village in years, not since he left as a young man with torn slippers and a hungry stomach. Back then, life was not soft. Back then, life was fire. Jeremy's father died when he was 10 years old. The day his father died, the house became quiet in a painful way. No more laughter, no more steady food, no more safety. Madame Hannah became everything. She became mother and father. She became farmer and trader. She became the one who cooked, the one who washed, the one who carried heavy firewood from the bush, balanced on her head so she could sell it in the market and buy Jeremy's school books. Sometimes she returned home late, tired and dirty, her face sweating under the wood. But she always smiled at Jeremy. "Jeremy, you will not suffer like me," she would say, rubbing his head gently. "You will go far." And Jeremy did go far. He got a scholarship. He went to Lagos. He worked, struggled, pushed, climbed. And somewhere along the way he became rich, very rich, a billionaire. His name entered newspapers. His company grew. His mansion rose in Lekki. He wore suits that cost more than his village house. But with every step up, Jeremy pushed his village down in his mind. He pushed his mother down too. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she reminded him of where he came from. And Jeremy hated being reminded. So he sent money sometimes, small money compared to what he had. And then he stopped. He changed his phone number. He told his assistants, if any village person calls, block them. He told himself, I'm too busy, I'll visit later. Later never came. Then Naomi entered his life. Naomi was beautiful, smart, city girl, confident. She made Jeremy feel like a king. When Naomi talked about marriage, she said something that sounded sweet. "Jeremy, I want to meet your mother before the wedding," she said one night. "I want her blessing." Jeremy's smile froze. He quickly covered it with a laugh. "My mother is not around much," he said. Naomi frowned. "What do you mean?" Jeremy shrugged. "Village life is stressful. She moves around." But Naomi did not let it go, so Jeremy made a plan. A fake plan. He told Naomi they would go to the village for a quick visit, just to show her where he grew up. He told himself he would drive in, show Naomi a few places, and drive out. No mother, no old house, no shame. That was the plan, until Madame Hannah appeared on the road with firewood on her head. And Naomi saw her, and Naomi offered help, and Madame Hannah called his name. Back to the present. The SUV crossed the village boundary. Jeremy didn't slow down. Naomi sat back, quiet now, watching his face. He looked angry, but behind that anger, Naomi felt something else. Fear. Not fear of village old women, fear of being seen, fear of being exposed. "Jeremy," Naomi said carefully, "when we get back to Lagos, you need to explain this." Jeremy's knuckles tightened around the steering wheel. He didn't answer. He just pressed harder on the accelerator. And Naomi finally understood something that scared her. Jeremy was not just avoiding an old woman. Jeremy was running from a past he didn't want anyone to touch. As the car sped toward Lagos, Naomi glanced down and noticed Jeremy's phone. A missed call. No name. Just a number. Then another call came in. And another. Jeremy grabbed the phone quickly and rejected it. Naomi's voice was small. "Who is calling you?" Jeremy's eyes stayed on the road. "Nobody." But the phone rang again. This time a message popped up on the screen. Naomi caught the first words before Jeremy snatched the phone away. "Jeremy, please. It's Mama." Naomi's stomach dropped. Her heart pounded, because now she knew. That old woman was not a stranger. That old woman was truly his mother. And Jeremy had just denied her with his whole chest. Naomi turned slowly to face him, her voice shaking. "Jeremy, why are you doing this?" Jeremy's jaw clenched. His eyes flashed, and he said something that made Naomi go silent with fear. "If you mention this again," he said coldly, "you will spoil everything." Naomi's throat went dry. Everything, she whispered. Jeremy didn't look at her, but the way his voice sounded, it felt like a threat. And in that moment, Naomi realized she might not know the man she was about to marry at all. Naomi did not speak for the rest of the journey back to Lagos. She sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, but her mind kept replaying the same picture again and again. An old woman on a dusty road, firewood on her head, tears on her cheeks, and Jeremy, rolling up the tinted window like he was shutting away a dirty secret. When they finally reached Jeremy's mansion in Lekki, the gates opened with a smooth electronic sound. The compound was bright, clean and perfect, like a place where pain was not allowed to enter. But Naomi brought pain in with her. She couldn't help it. As they walked into the living room, the marble floor shined under the chandelier. A house help rushed to take their bags, another offered chilled water. Jeremy acted normal. Too normal, he loosened his tie and sat down like a man who had only returned from a small trip, not like a man who had just broken his mother's heart. Naomi stood near the sofa, her hands trembling. "Jeremy," she said quietly, "we need to talk." Jeremy did not look up. "I'm tired." Naomi's voice rose just a little. "Tired? Jeremy, that woman—" Jeremy's head snapped up. His eyes were sharp. "Stop," he warned. Naomi swallowed, but she did not back down. "She called you your son," Naomi insisted, "and that message on your phone said, 'Mama.' That woman is your mother." Jeremy stood up slowly. His expensive wristwatch caught the light as he moved. He walked closer until he was right in front of her. Then he lowered his voice. "Naomi," he said, calm but dangerous, "I'm telling you this once. That woman is not my mother." Naomi stared at him, shocked. "But—" Jeremy cut her off. "If you bring this up again," he said, "you will spoil everything." Naomi's eyes filled with tears, not because she was weak, but because she was confused. "What does that even mean?" she asked. "How can helping your mother spoil anything?" Jeremy exhaled as if she was being childish. "My mother died a long time ago," he lied smoothly. "The woman you saw is just someone trying to trap me." Naomi's chest tightened. She knew he was lying. She felt it. But Jeremy spoke with such confidence that it was almost like he wanted to force her to doubt her own eyes. Naomi stepped back. "So you're saying an old woman carrying firewood is trying to trap you?" Jeremy's face hardened. "I'm saying you don't understand village people," he snapped. "They are wicked. They use anything. They can call your name and tie your destiny." Naomi shook her head slowly. "I don't believe that," she said. "Jeremy, that woman looked hungry. She looked tired. She looked like she has been suffering." Jeremy pointed toward the door. "I said I'm done with this discussion," he said. "Go and rest." Naomi wanted to argue more, but something in his eyes warned her, so she turned and walked away. Yet even as she climbed the stairs to their bedroom, Naomi's heart kept whispering the truth. This is not over. Back in the village. Madame Hannah did not move for a long time after the SUV zoomed off. The road became quiet again. A motorbike passed, then another. A few villagers walking from the market glanced at her, then looked away quickly, like they didn't want to get involved. Madame Hannah's knees shook, her throat burned. She wanted to run after the car. But she was old, her body was tired, and the wood on her head felt like a mountain. So she stood there, crying quietly, until her tears dried in the sun. Then she started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of the wood, but because of shame. Because it wasn't just that Jeremy refused to help her, it was the way he refused, like she was poison, like she was evil, like she was nothing. When she reached her small compound, she pushed open the weak wooden door. Her house was not like Jeremy's mansion. It was a mud house with rough walls and a roof made from old zinc. Inside there was a thin mattress on the floor, a small wooden stool, a cracked plastic bucket, and a tiny kitchen corner where she cooked with firewood. The same firewood she carried from the bush. She dropped the wood carefully, then she sat on the mattress. And the tears came again, stronger this time. She rocked herself slowly, like a mother rocking a baby. But she wasn't rocking a baby. She was rocking her broken heart. "God," she whispered, her voice shaking. "God." She looked up at the ceiling, and her eyes became angry. "If I have ever been bad to Jeremy," she said, "then punish me." She paused, breathing hard. "But if I gave him my whole life, if I refused to remarry, if I carried woods, if I sold food, if I suffered just to train him," her voice rose, "then God, pay him back in the best way possible." Her hands clenched. "Let him lose the wealth that made him proud," she cried. "Let his name be disgraced. Let his joy turn to tears, the way my joy turned to tears today." The words were heavy. They did not sound like a normal prayer. They sounded like pain turning into fire. Madame Hannah wiped her face with the edge of her wrapper. Then she lay down, and that night she slept with a heart full of sorrow. In Lagos, Jeremy acted like the village never happened. He threw himself into wedding planning like it was a business deal. He booked a huge wedding hall. He chose expensive decorations. He paid popular musicians. He invited powerful people. He wanted the wedding to be perfect. Naomi tried again and again to talk about Madame Hannah. But every time Naomi mentioned the village, Jeremy changed his face. He became cold. He became harsh. Finally, Naomi stopped trying. Not because she agreed, but because she was afraid that pushing too hard would destroy the relationship before it even became marriage. Still, Naomi did something quietly. She called the number that sent the message, "Jeremy, please, it's Mama." But the call did not go through. She tried again. No answer. She felt helpless, so she prayed. She told herself maybe Jeremy will soften after the wedding. She hoped marriage would make him kinder. She hoped love would melt his heart. But Naomi did not know something. A heart that can deny a mother can deny anyone. The wedding day arrived like a big Lagos celebration. The hall was filled with lights, flowers, and music. Naomi looked stunning in her white gown. Jeremy looked like a king in his expensive suit. People clapped, people took pictures, people smiled. And yet, there was one empty seat that nobody talked about. The seat where Jeremy's mother should have been. Naomi sat in the bride's room before the ceremony, staring at herself in the mirror. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were troubled. One of her friends walked in and smiled. "Naomi, you're so lucky," her friend said. "Jeremy is a billionaire. This is a dream wedding." Naomi forced a smile, but inside she thought, if only you knew the real Jeremy. The ceremony went on. Vows were exchanged. The crowd cheered. Jeremy kissed Naomi, and everyone shouted with joy. Yet Naomi felt something cold in her chest, because she remembered Madame Hannah's tears, because she remembered that dusty road, and because she could not shake the feeling that something was coming. At first, life as Jeremy's wife felt like a fairy tale. Naomi lived in a mansion. She wore expensive clothes. She went to fancy events. She posted pictures online, smiling beside Jeremy. People praised her. People envied her. But behind the smiles, Naomi noticed small cracks. Jeremy was always tense. He shouted at staff for small mistakes. He became angry when anyone mentioned family. He avoided the topic of his mother like it was a curse. Naomi tried to focus on the good. Then one morning, something happened. Naomi was in the kitchen, sipping tea, when she heard loud voices outside. Then she heard footsteps. Heavy, serious footsteps. Before she could even understand what was going on, the front door opened. Men walked in. Not guests, not friends, law enforcement. They wore uniforms and serious faces. One of them held a document. Another held a file. Jeremy stepped out of his study, confused. "What is this?" he demanded. The lead officer looked straight at him. "Mr. Jeremy Okoye," the officer said firmly, "you are under arrest for fraud and tax evasion." Naomi's cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Her whole body froze. Jeremy laughed once, like it was a joke. "This is nonsense," he said. "Do you know who I am?" The officer did not blink. "We know exactly who you are," he said. "Turn around." Handcuffs came out. Metal clicked. Naomi's heart pounded like a drum. Jeremy tried to speak, tried to argue, tried to call someone, but the officers did not care. They marched him out, right there, inside his own mansion. Naomi ran after them. "Wait, please," she cried. "There must be a mistake." Jeremy turned his head and met Naomi's eyes. And for the first time since the village, Naomi saw real fear on his face. Not pride, not anger, fear. As the officers pushed him into their vehicle, Jeremy shouted one sentence that shook Naomi to her bones. "Naomi, don't let them take everything." The gate closed behind the law enforcement cars. Naomi stood there shaking. The mansion suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too empty, and in her mind a terrifying thought whispered, "Is this the beginning of his mother's curse?" Naomi rushed inside and grabbed her phone, ready to call Jeremy's lawyer, but when she entered the study, she saw something on his desk that made her stomach drop even more. A brown envelope, stamped papers, and at the top of one document, bold letters that Naomi could read clearly, "Petition against Jeremy Okoye, evidence attached." Naomi's hands trembled as she reached for it, because whoever reported Jeremy had already prepared everything. And Naomi suddenly realized this trouble did not start today. It started long before. Possibly the very day Jeremy rolled up that window and drove away from his mother. The iron gate of the prison closed with a loud clang. That sound entered Jeremy's ears and went straight to his heart. For the first time in his life, there were no assistants running around him, no drivers opening doors, no guards calling him sir. Only cold walls, only narrow space, only shame. Jeremy sat on the hard bench inside the holding area, his expensive clothes now wrinkled and useless. The same hands that once signed million-dollar contracts now trembled. How did it come to this, he thought. Just weeks ago he was standing in a wedding hall, smiling like a king. Now he was a prisoner. Outside the prison walls, Naomi had not slept for 2 days. She moved from one lawyer's office to another. She made phone calls until her voice went hoarse. She begged, argued, cried, and prayed. But everywhere she went, the answer sounded the same. The evidence is strong. The case is serious. This will not be easy. When Naomi was finally allowed to visit Jeremy, she walked into the prison with heavy legs. Jeremy sat across the visitors' table, wearing plain prison clothes. His shoulders were low. His eyes looked tired and hollow. Naomi held the phone with shaking hands. Jeremy picked his up slowly. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then Jeremy broke down. "Naomi," his voice cracked, "I didn't do this. I swear. I was framed." Naomi swallowed hard. "The lawyers say the documents are clean. They say the evidence is too much." Jeremy shook his head violently. "Someone planned this. Someone wants me destroyed." Naomi studied his face. For the first time since she met him, Jeremy looked small. "I'll stand by you," Naomi said quietly. "I promised that much." Jeremy reached for the glass, pressing his palm against it. "Please," he said, tears in his eyes. "Don't leave me." Naomi nodded, though her heart felt torn. "I won't," she said, but deep inside, another thought whispered, "Standing by you does not mean agreeing with what you did." The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the back rows. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread like fire. Jeremy was brought in, handcuffed. People gasped. Some shook their heads. Others smiled secretly. The judge entered. The charges were read aloud. Fraud, tax evasion, false records. Each word landed like a slap. Jeremy listened, sweating. His lawyers spoke. The prosecution spoke. Witnesses came forward. Documents were displayed. Naomi sat behind Jeremy, clutching her bag tightly. Then the judgment came. "Jeremy Okoye," the judge said firmly, "you are hereby sentenced to 20 years imprisonment." Naomi felt the room spin. Jeremy's knees almost gave way. 20 years. 20 long years. The court erupted in noise. Jeremy was dragged away before he could even look back. That night, inside his prison cell, Jeremy did not sleep. He lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. His mind returned to the village, to the dusty road, to the firewood, to the voice calling him my son. His chest tightened. For the first time, guilt entered fully. Not softly, not gently, it entered like a storm. "Mama," he whispered into the darkness. Tears soaked the pillow. Months passed. Jeremy lost weight. His skin became dull. Pride slowly melted. One day, during Naomi's visit, Jeremy held the phone tightly. "Naomi," he said, his voice low, "I need you to do something for me." Naomi looked at him carefully. What is it? Jeremy closed his eyes. Go to the village. Naomi's heart skipped. The village? Yes, he said. Find my mother. Naomi said nothing. She is Madam Hannah, Jeremy continued. She lives in my father's old house. I denied her. I was ashamed. I was wicked. His voice broke. I need to beg her. I need her forgiveness. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. Why now? She asked gently. Jeremy laughed bitterly. Because prison teaches you truth. Because when everything was taken from me, I remembered the only person who ever loved me without conditions. He scribbled an address on a piece of paper and slid it through the opening. Please, he begged, find her. Naomi nodded slowly. I'll go tomorrow. The road to the village felt longer than before. Naomi stared out of the window as the city faded into bush and red dust. When she reached the village, people stared at her car. She asked for directions. Some villagers pointed silently, others looked away. Finally, Naomi stood in front of the house. Her heart sank. The mud house looked empty. The door hung loosely. The compound was quiet. Too quiet. Naomi stepped closer and knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. A woman passing by stopped and stared at Naomi's fine clothes. Please, Naomi asked, her voice shaking. Madam Hannah, does she live here? The woman's face changed. Her eyes softened. Oh, she sighed. You didn't hear. Naomi's chest tightened. Hear what? The woman wiped her eyes. Mama Hannah died. The world stopped. Naomi felt dizzy. Died, she whispered. When? Few days ago, the woman replied sadly. She was sick, very sick. There was no one to care for her. She died quietly. We buried her. Naomi dropped to her knees. Tears poured freely. She covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. The woman shook her head slowly. That woman suffered. She talked about her son till the end. Naomi cried like a child, right there on the dusty ground. Because now she understood. Jeremy did not just deny his mother, he denied her last chance to live. Back in the prison, Jeremy waited anxiously. When Naomi finally appeared, her eyes were red and swollen. Jeremy stood up quickly. Naomi? He asked. Where is my mother? Naomi did not answer immediately. She picked up the phone. Her voice trembled. Jeremy, she said softly. Mama is gone. Jeremy froze. Gone, he whispered. Gone where? Naomi's tears fell. She's dead. Jeremy screamed. A raw, painful cry tore out of him. He collapsed to the floor, shaking. No, 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 he cried. I wanted to beg her. I wanted to say sorry. Naomi cried too. You denied me the chance to know her, she said bitterly. You denied yourself forgiveness. Jeremy beat his chest. My pride killed my mother, he sobbed. The guards rushed in to calm him down. As Jeremy was dragged away, one thought repeated in his mind over and over. If only I had stopped that car. That night, in his prison cell, Jeremy dreamed. He saw a dusty road. He saw Firewood. He saw his mother. She was smiling, and she was walking away from him. Jeremy woke up screaming, and just as he sat up, breathing hard, a prison officer called his name from outside the cell. Jeremy Okoye, the officer said, you have a special request approved. Jeremy's heart pounded. What request? He asked shakily. The officer opened the file. You are approved, he said slowly, to visit your mother's grave. Jeremy's breath caught, because he knew. The hardest part of his punishment was about to begin. The prison van moved slowly along the village road. Dust rose behind it, settling on bushes and old zinc roofs. Jeremy sat inside, handcuffed, his head bowed low. Naomi sat beside him, silent, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. Two officers sat in front, saying nothing. As the van entered the village, people stopped what they were doing. Market women paused, children froze, men leaned on their sticks. Whispers spread quickly. That's him. The billionaire. The one who denied his mother. Jeremy could feel their eyes on him, burning his skin more than the handcuffs. The van stopped near the small village square. An elderly man stepped forward. His back was bent, but his eyes were sharp. He was one of the village elders. He shook his head slowly as he looked at Jeremy. "So," the old man said, his voice calm but heavy, "pride has brought you back." Jeremy could not lift his face. "I want to see my mother," he whispered. The elder sighed and turned. "Follow me." They walked, past mud houses, past familiar paths, past the road where everything had gone wrong. Jeremy's legs felt weak with every step. Soon they reached the village cemetery. It was quiet, just mounds of earth under tall trees. The elder stopped at one fresh grave. "This is Madam Hannah," he said. Jeremy dropped. His knees hit the ground hard. The officers loosened the handcuffs slightly so he could move his hands. Jeremy crawled forward and placed both palms on the mound of sand. The earth was still soft. "Mama," he cried. His voice cracked completely. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Naomi covered her mouth, crying silently behind him. Jeremy pressed his face into the sand. "I was ashamed of you," he confessed. "I forgot that you carried me on your back. I forgot the firewood. I forgot your tears." His body shook violently. "I chose pride over you," he sobbed. "Please forgive me." The wind rustled the leaves above. No voice answered, but the silence felt loud. The elder cleared his throat. "She waited for you," the old man said quietly. "Even when she was sick, she asked about you." Jeremy screamed again, his hands digging into the soil. "I didn't know," he cried. "I didn't know she would die." The elder looked at him firmly. "You knew," he said. "You just chose not to care." Those words cut deeper than any knife. After some time, the officers signaled that it was time. Jeremy stood slowly, his legs shaking. As they led him away, Jeremy turned back again and again, like a child afraid of losing his mother all over. That night, back in prison, Jeremy could not sleep. The image of the grave stayed in his mind. When sleep finally came, it came heavy. He found himself standing on the dusty road again, the same sun. Then he saw her. Madam Hannah stood ahead of him. But she was no longer tired, no firewood on her head. She looked young and peaceful. "Mama!" Jeremy cried, running toward her. She turned and smiled gently. "My son," she said softly. Tears ran down Jeremy's face. "Please forgive me." Madam Hannah stepped closer. "I have forgiven you," she said. Jeremy fell to his knees. "Then why did all this happen to me?" Madam Hannah looked at him with sad eyes. "So that your heart can learn," she replied. "But remember, forgiveness does not remove all consequences." Jeremy opened his mouth to speak again, and he woke up. Sweat covered his body. His heart raced, but something felt different. Lighter. Days later, something unexpected happened. Jeremy was called out of his cell again. This time he was taken to a small office inside the prison. His lawyer sat there, smiling slightly. "Jeremy," the lawyer said, "new evidence has come up." Jeremy's breath caught. "Evidence?" he asked. "Yes," the lawyer nodded. "It shows that some documents were forged. Someone framed you." Jeremy's mind raced. "Does that mean—" "It means your case is under review," the lawyer said. "There is hope." Jeremy leaned back, shaking. Hope, a word he thought was dead. Naomi visited him later that evening. She noticed the change immediately. "You look different," she said. "I saw my mother," Jeremy replied softly. Naomi froze. "In your dream?" Jeremy nodded. "She forgave me." Naomi's eyes filled again, but she said nothing. Weeks passed. Jeremy waited. Every knock on the cell door made his heart jump. Finally, the day came. He was taken back to court. The courtroom was quieter this time. The judge listened carefully. The new evidence was presented. After long hours, the judge spoke. "Based on the findings," he said, "this court rules that Jeremy Okoye was framed." Naomi clasped her hands tightly. Jeremy's knees weakened. However, the judge continued, "Due to delays and legal processes, he will be released after 5 years already served." The gavel came down. Jeremy was free, but 5 years had already taken their toll. As he was led out, Jeremy felt both joy and deep pain, because freedom could not bring his mother back. Outside the court, Naomi stood beside him. Jeremy turned to her, tears streaming. "Thank you," he said, "for staying." Naomi nodded slowly. I promised, she replied. But her voice was distant, and Jeremy sensed it, that something between them had changed forever. As they walked toward the car, Naomi stopped. Jeremy turned, confused. Jeremy, Naomi said softly, her eyes filled with pain. We need to talk. Jeremy's heart skipped, because he knew this freedom might come with a new loss he was not ready for. Naomi stood beside the car, her hands shaking slightly. Jeremy followed her eyes and saw what he feared most. Not anger, not shouting, but calm sadness, the kind that had already made a decision. Naomi, he said softly, what is it? Naomi took a deep breath. I stayed, she began. I stayed when you were arrested. I stayed through the trial. I stayed through prison. I stayed even when I found out your mother died. Jeremy nodded slowly. I know. I will never forget that. Naomi shook her head gently. But staying does not mean I can continue. Jeremy's heart dropped. What do you mean? He asked, though he already knew. Naomi wiped her tears. Jeremy, I cannot be married to a man who could deny the woman who gave him everything. Jeremy stepped closer. I was blind. I have changed. Naomi looked at him with pain in her eyes. You changed too late. Jeremy fell to his knees right there on the pavement. People passing stopped and stared. Please, he begged, don't leave me too. I've lost my mother. I've lost 5 years of my life. Naomi's voice broke. You lost your mother long before she died. You lost her the day you rolled up that window. Jeremy covered his face and cried. I will spend my life making it right, he said. Please give me one more chance. Naomi stepped back. I stayed till the end of your ordeal, as I promised, she said quietly. But this marriage cannot continue. I can forgive you, Jeremy. But I cannot stay. She turned and opened the car door. Jeremy grabbed her hand. Naomi. She gently removed his hand. Goodbye, she said, and she entered the car. As the car drove away, Jeremy remained on his knees, crying like a child who had lost his way. The empty mansion, Jeremy returned to his mansion alone. The house was big, too big. The walls echoed, the rooms felt cold. Naomi's things were gone, the silence was loud. That night, Jeremy sat in the living room with the lights off. Memories played in his mind like a broken movie. The dusty road, the firewood, his mother's voice, the prison bars, Naomi walking away. He whispered into the darkness, Mama, I'm free, but I am empty. No answer came. Years later, Jeremy's name slowly returned to business headlines. His company reopened, his accounts were restored, contracts came back, millions flowed again. But joy did not return. Jeremy refused to remarry, he avoided celebrations, he built schools in villages, he donated to widows, he helped the poor quietly. Yet every night, guilt slept beside him. Sometimes he dreamed of Madame Hannah. She never spoke. She only looked at him with sad eyes. Jeremy would wake up sweating, his heart heavy. One evening, Jeremy drove alone and stopped on the side of a road. An old woman passed, carrying firewood on her head. Jeremy's chest tightened. He rolled down his window quickly. Please, he said, stepping out, let me help you. The woman looked surprised but smiled. God bless you, my son, she said. Jeremy lifted the wood and placed it in his car. As he drove her home, tears streamed down his face, because no matter how much good he did, no matter how rich he became again, there was one thing he could never fix. He had denied his mother when she needed him most, and that lesson stayed with him forever. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.